Daniel Sports Central, we go over our 2022 college football predictions for the Michigan State Spartans, team that went 11-2 overall in the 2021 season. And this team was one of the big surprise teams of 2021. I mean, this team coming off of a terrible 2020 season, the expectations were pretty low going into 2021, but this team managed to get 11 wins last season. Definitely an outstanding season for the Spartans. But how this team be in 2022? Will they be even better in 2022? That's what we'll be going over here today. We'll be analyzing this team and predicting their schedule game by game in this video, starting out with your team trends. 11-2 once again was the record last season, so I mean it was a great season for Michigan State. They were 6-0 in their first 6 games, and then 5-2 in their last 7. I mean, this team was undefeated for a long time. I mean, they took their first loss of the season when they lost to Purdue. So I mean, they made it through October and September as an undefeated team, and I mean, that's obviously a huge accomplishment. They beat Miami 38-17. The Hurricanes were ranked number 24 in the nation at the time. I mean, that was kind of the game that I started to. I mean, I was able to start taking Michigan State seriously because Miami going into the season, they once again the expectations were very low for the Spartans going into last season. So for them to beat Miami, they're 38-17. That was definitely an impressive win there. They beat Michigan, number 6 team in the nation at the time. That was a massive win there, beating them 37-33. And of course, they lost to Purdue there 29-40. Purdue was quite an interesting team last season. They managed to pull off some big upsets. They beat Maryland 40-21, beat Penn State 30-27, and beat Pittsburgh in the Peach Bowl 31-21 was the final score there. So I mean, overall, great season for this team. Finished it out with a New Year's Six bowl win. Definitely a lot of great things happened in the 2021 season for this team. Roster preview going to next season. This team does return multiple of the key players from the 2021 season. Peyton Thorne, the starting quarterback, is returning. Last season, he put up 3,200 yards, 27 touchdowns, 10 picks, and a 60% completion rate. So, I mean, Peyton Thorne last season, considering he had hardly played going into the 2021 season in college, I mean, the expectations were very low for him. And it turns out he actually had a really good season for Michigan State, and he's still got some room to improve for sure. We'll see how he progresses going into 2022. But the main concern for this team is losing their star running back, Kenneth Walker III. Last season, he was dominant to say the least. I mean, he put up 1,700 yards, 19 touchdowns offensively last season, and I mean, yeah, Kenneth Walker, he was outstanding last season. I mean, I feel like for Michigan State, this team, if they didn't have Kenneth Walker in the backfield last season, I mean, this team probably would have gotten 8 to 9 wins at the max. They wouldn't have gotten 11 wins last season without Kenneth Walker. So that's going to be a tough loss there. We'll see how this team does in the backfield going into next season, but that's going to be a big hole to fill there. But Jordan Simmons is coming back, the second running back from last season. He put up 270 yards. You also got Jalen Berger coming in, Wisconsin transfer, and Broussard, I believe he's from Colorado. So, yeah, I mean, the running back position, you do have a couple of additions, and the depth is pretty good. But I just don't think. I mean, they've probably got multiple running backs that'll split some time next season, but I don't think they're going to have a dominant running back like they did last season with Kenneth Walker in 2022. But the receiving situation, Jalen Reed's coming back, the top receiver. He's going to be he's definitely a key player for this team. He put up over 1,000 yards last year, 11 touchdowns. Second receiver, Jalen Naylor, is leaving. He put up 690 yards last season, 6 touchdowns. Trey Mosley's coming back, the third wideout from this team. So you got your top and your third receivers coming back. Once again, you return your quarterback in Peyton Thorne. And in the backfield, you do lose your star running back in Kenneth Walker, but there's some decent depth in there overall. You also lose your tight end, Connor Hayward. 3 offensive linemen, 3 defensive linemen also leaving. So defensively, I mean, the linebacking situation in the secondary looks overall pretty good, even though you do lose 3 on the defensive line. So brings up the question, I mean, what are the chances that the Spartans do win the East Division next season? I mean, you got Ohio State and Michigan, the top 2 who are projected, and Penn State could potentially be decent next season. I mean, the East Division in the Big Ten is night and day, much more difficult than the West Division. I mean, the West Division has got, I feel like, there's a lot of depth in the West Division, meaning I feel like there's 5 teams in that division, in the West Division, that could get 8 wins plus next season. But if you look at the East Division, I mean, there are more teams that could be a national contender. Like, I don't feel like anyone from the West Division is going to be a national contender, but in the East Division, I mean, you got Michigan, you got Ohio State, Michigan State potentially, and even Penn State. Who knows about them? So, I mean, the East Division has got multiple teams that could be national contenders, but Michigan State, they're going to have to play very well next season if they want to win that division. I mean, it's a brutal division to win. But, I mean, is this team a potential college football playoff dark horse in 2022? They very much were in the 2021 season, so we'll see how they progress going into 2022. Transfer portal and recruiting for this team. The transfer portal list is so long for this team that I'm actually having to do it on 2 slides. I mean, that's the reason why this team was so successful, I think, in 2021 was because of the transfer portal. I mean, this team landed some major transfers, and I mean, many of those players went on to be really good last season. And so, I mean, it makes sense why they hit the transfer portal so hard going into 2022 as well. But, of course, you got Windman coming in, linebacker from UNLV. You're losing Dowell, safety, to Miami, Ohio, but you're bringing in tight end Barker, edge Chris Bogle. That's a huge addition there. Linebacker Brule, Amir Speed, defensive back from Georgia, and Broussard, of course, the running back from Colorado. I mean, all of those players could definitely be good players, like starters next season. They've got potential to do so. You do lose Klein, linebacker, to Eastern Michigan. And you also got Emmanuel Flowers. Most of these players have taken off. So you're losing Flowers, safety, linebacker Crouch, Ricky White, Donovan Eaglin. And you also lose Jack Camper, Ohanba, offensive lineman, then Isaiah, offensive lineman, who's going to Fresno State. But you do bring in Daniel Barker, a tight end from Illinois. Recruiting-wise, looks pretty good as well. 23rd in the nation, 4th in the Big Ten. You got 6 4-stars coming in, and then 17 3-stars. So, I mean, once again, the transfer portal was a huge factor in why I think Michigan State was so successful last season. And we'll see how that ages going into the 2022 season as well. Looking at your schedule now going into next season, you got Western Michigan in week 1, and then Akron coming to town after that. So you got 2 somewhat easy games in your first 2 weeks. Then you got Washington on the road on the 17th. That'll be an interesting matchup there. You got Minnesota to start off your conference schedule on the 24th, Maryland on the road, Ohio State at home, Wisconsin at home. Then you go to Michigan. You got Illinois on the road, Rutgers at home, Indiana at home, and then Penn State on the road to finish out the season. So if you look at your crossover games into the West Division, you got Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Illinois. Wisconsin and Minnesota both, I do think, will be 8 to 9 win teams next season, so they're going to be good. Illinois, not so much, but you got them on the road. So, I mean, I don't want to say it's a brutal schedule, but you do have a difficult schedule next season. I mean, Washington on the road as well. That's a road game, even though I don't really think the Huskies are going to be terribly good next year. So definitely interesting schedule. But looking at September here, Western Michigan, easy win. Akron, easy win as well. Washington on the road, that's kind of a dangerous game there. I feel like the Huskies next season are going to be like a 6 to 8 win team. So, I mean, they'll be decent, but with it being on the road, potentially that causes a little bit of trouble. It's going to be close. Ball favor Michigan State there. And also favor the Spartans against Minnesota the next week. Minnesota could be a good team next season. But I will favor Michigan State there. So I've got you starting out the season 4-0, which, I mean, if you start off the season 4-0, I think that's a really good start. And then in October, you got multiple tough games. October is a brutal month for this team. I mean, you got your bye week in between the Wisconsin and Michigan games, but certainly it's a tough schedule. Maryland, I'll favor Michigan State in that one on the road, but Ohio State coming to town after that. We all know how Ohio State just destroyed Michigan State last season, and it's going to be a little bit different going into next season. I think Michigan State's going to be more improved in the secondary. I mean, the secondary was an issue last season for this team, and I think it'll be better. And I mean, if they can improve more defensively, I feel like they've got a chance against Ohio State. But I'm still going to favor the Buckeyes there, despite it being at home for the Spartans. Ohio State, I mean, they're going to be. I think they're one of my 3 teams that I think is most likely to win a national title next season, along with Alabama and probably Georgia. But Wisconsin after that on the 15th, Wisconsin's coming to town. I'll favor Michigan State there. Wisconsin, I don't know about them. They're going to be good. They'll probably win the West Division. I think they're my favorite to win the West Division right now, but I do think Michigan State's the better team there. And then Michigan on the road, playing in the Big House. I'll favor Michigan in that one, with it being on the road. Plus, I do think Michigan's going to be a really good team once again next season. They're returning a lot of their key players. So you're 6-2 heading into November. You got Illinois on the road, easy win. Rutgers, Indiana, both easy wins as well. And then Penn State on the road. I'm going to favor Penn State there. I feel like out of the 3 losses that I'm projecting for Michigan State, I think that Penn State game is certainly the most winnable. I think Ohio State and Michigan are both going to beat Michigan State personally. I mean, Ohio State coming to town, potentially that's an upset game maybe, but in the end, I'm going to go with 9-3 for Michigan State. I feel like Ohio State and Michigan will be the top 2 in the East Division. I think Michigan State's my number 3 team in that division, with Penn State slightly behind, but Michigan State, 9 wins would still be an outstanding season for this team. But let me know your thoughts and comments below on Michigan State, and I appreciate you guys watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.